The evening in Monaco began as usual, with a warm Mediterranean breeze playing with the edges of white tablecloths on the terraces of luxurious restaurants. Leonardo DiCaprio looked at his reflection in the mirror of his hotel room, adjusting the bow tie on his impeccable Tom Ford tuxedo. "Well, tonight I intend to just relax," he said to his assistant Mark, who was preparing everything for the evening outing. "No autographs, no photos with fans. Just a quiet night at the casino." Mark nodded, but his gaze betrayed doubts. A quiet night? In Monaco? For one of the most famous actors in the world? Hardly. "Isabella and Camilla are already waiting in the lobby," he said, checking his phone. "Security is ready. The car is here." Leonardo took one last look in the mirror. At 50, he looked distinguished. Maturity had only added character to the face that once won the hearts of millions of girls in Titanic. Deep wrinkles around his eyes testified to a life filled with laughter and passion for his craft. "All right, let's go," he said, stepping away from the mirror. "But remember, tonight we have fun like normal people." Mark hid a smile. Normal people don't play baccarat with stakes in the tens of thousands of euros, he thought, but simply nodded, "Sure, Leo. Whatever you say." The Casino de Monte Carlo shone with its ancient grandeur. When Leonardo entered with his small entourage, several heads turned in his direction but quickly looked away. It was an unwritten tradition of the establishment. They respected the privacy of celebrities and billionaires. After all, they were all equals here, fortunate ones who could afford the most expensive entertainment in the world. Isabella Vargas, a Brazilian top model with luxurious dark curls, took Leonardo's arm, attracting the gazes of all men in the room. Next to her walked Camilla Russo, a French fashion icon, a delicate blonde with piercing blue eyes and aristocratic posture. Monsieur DiCaprio, what a pleasant surprise, the casino manager, an elegant middle-aged man with impeccable manners, approached them. "Your usual table is already prepared in the VIP section." "Thank you, Philippe," Leonardo replied, shaking the manager's hand. "I'm hoping for a lucky evening." Luck always accompanies the most beautiful. Philippe gallantly bowed to the ladies accompanying the actor. "Allow me to show you the way." The VIP section of the casino was a separate world, with its own rules and atmosphere. There were no loud exclamations from slot machines or crowds of tourists who flocked to Europe's most prestigious casino. Here, aristocratic restraint prevailed, interrupted only by the quiet rustle of cards, the clicking of chips, and hushed conversations. Leonardo sat down at a baccarat table, ordered a bottle of Dom Perignon, and began to play. The first few rounds went unhurriedly. The actor was winning, but these were small amounts, a warm-up before the serious game. "Leo, your luck tonight is simply phenomenal," purred Isabella, gently touching his shoulder. Camilla nodded, watching the game with professional interest. "I would always stop with such winnings." Leonardo smiled. "And I wouldn't. The night is still young." An hour later, the aroma of excitement hung in the air. In front of Leonardo was already a considerable pile of chips, about 300,000 euros in winnings, but he seemed calm, as if this was just a board game with friends. That's when he noticed Maximilian Steiner. The German tech billionaire sat at a neighboring table, laughing loudly and drinking whiskey straight from a crystal glass. His appearance radiated arrogance and narcissism, disheveled, despite his perfectly tailored tuxedo, too loud for this place. Several times he glanced in the direction of Leonardo's table, especially lingering his gaze on Camilla. "Looks like you've got an admirer," Leonardo quietly said to Camilla, nodding toward Steiner. Camilla barely noticeably flinched. "Maximilian. That man is simply terrible." "You know each other?" Leonardo asked with surprise, examining the cards dealt to him. "Unfortunately." Her voice turned cold. "Last year at the Dior show in Paris. He thinks money gives him the right to everything, and everyone." Leonardo nodded without commenting. He knew this type of people too well, excessively rich nouveau riche who believed they could buy anything: respect, love, women. People like Steiner were especially dangerous because often their external success hid a deep inner emptiness. The game continued, but Leonardo noticed that Steiner was increasingly glancing in their direction. After another round, the billionaire got up from his seat and approached the bar, from where he continued to observe their table, whispering something to his assistant. "Are you okay?" Leonardo asked Camilla, who seemed tense. "Yes," she answered too quickly. Let's change the subject." 20 minutes later, a waiter approached their table with a small note on a silver tray. "For Mademoiselle Rousseau," he said, presenting the note to Camilla. The French model took the paper reluctantly, as if it might burn her. When she read what was written, her face changed, her cheeks flushed, and her eyes narrowed with anger. "What is it?" Leonardo asked quietly. Without words, Camilla passed him the note. On the elegant hotel stationery, a few lines were written in careless handwriting. "Dear Camilla, remember our meeting in Paris? How much is your movie actor paying for a night with you? I'll double the amount. Room 418. Don't make the aging celebrity feel uncomfortable. Mess." Leonardo slowly folded the note. His face revealed no emotions, but those who knew him well would have noticed a dangerous gleam in his eyes. He set aside his cards and looked in the direction of the bar, where Steiner mockingly raised his glass of whiskey in a greeting gesture. "Excuse me for a moment," Leonardo said to his companions, rising from the table. "Leo, it's not worth it," Camilla grabbed his arm. "He's just a drunk idiot. Ignore him." "I'll just talk to him," the actor replied, gently freeing his hand. "Some things can't be ignored." He crossed the hall with a confident stride, stopping in front of Steiner, who stood leaning against the bar counter with a self-satisfied smile on his face. "Mr. Steiner," Leonardo's voice was calm but with steely notes. "I believe you owe my friend an apology." The billionaire squinted, examining the actor with barely hidden contempt. "And who are you, her manager? Or, oh, wait, you're that actor, the one jumping on doors in Titanic, aren't you?" Leonardo ignored the provocation. "The note you sent was indecent and offensive. I'm asking you to apologize to Mademoiselle Rousseau." Steiner laughed, too loudly for the refined surroundings. Several patrons turned in their direction but quickly looked away, sensing the tension. "Apologize? For an invitation?" Steiner swirled the whiskey in his glass. "Maybe in your Hollywood it's not customary, but in the real world, DiCaprio, women like Camilla appreciate directness. And generosity." Leonardo took a deep breath, trying to maintain his composure. "Mr. Steiner, you're drunk and behaving indecently. Camilla is not a commodity that can be bought. She can't be one from me or anyone else. She's a free woman and deserves respect." Steiner straightened up, using his height to look down at Leonardo. "Don't lecture me about respect for women, hypocrite. The whole world knows about your collection of models. Don't you replace them when they turn 25? Leonardo felt his pulse quicken. He didn't hide his personal life, but he never treated women as objects. "This has nothing to do with..." "Oh, please." Steiner interrupted him, waving his glass. "You're playing the role of a noble knight, but we both know you just hide your dirty secrets better. At least I'm honest in my desires." Leonardo shook his head. "The difference is that I never humiliate women. I never make them feel like objects. And I never come to a place like this to ruin someone's evening with my arrogance. You think your money gives you the right to everything?" Leonardo continued, feeling anger gradually getting out of control. Steiner shrugged with an insolent smile. "My money does give me the right to everything. I earned it, unlike you, who just makes faces in front of a camera. You think your Camilla is with you because of your inner depth? We both know the reality, DiCaprio. You collect models like trophies. I just want to borrow one from your collection for the night." What happened next occurred so quickly that later Leonardo could hardly recall the details. His hands moved forward on their own, pushing Steiner in the chest with unexpected force. The billionaire, unprepared for such a turn, staggered backward, crashing into a table and knocking over drinks and chips. For a moment, silence fell, and then Steiner, recovering from the shock, lunged forward, grabbing Leonardo by the lapels of his tuxedo. "Do you know who I am?" roared the billionaire, his face covered with red spots from fury. "I'll destroy you. You'll never act in." He didn't finish the phrase because at that moment the casino security already surrounded them. Two sturdy men in black suits separated the fighters, keeping them at a distance from each other. "Gentlemen," Philippe, the manager, said sternly, appearing nearby. "This is unacceptable. The Casino de Monte Carlo has centuries-old traditions of civilized behavior. This madman attacked me," exclaimed Steiner, pointing at Leonardo. "I demand the police be called immediately." "Monsieur Steiner," Philippe replied coldly. "I think we all wish to avoid a scandal. Our surveillance cameras recorded the entire conversation. I believe neither party wants this footage to become available to the press." Steiner fell silent, considering the manager's words. Leonardo, meanwhile, straightened his tuxedo and tried to calm down. "I think the best solution would be if both gentlemen ended their evening separately," Philippe continued diplomatically. "Our security service will escort you through different exits." 20 minutes later, Leonardo sat in a private office of the casino security service, holding a glass of water in his hands. His fingers trembled slightly, adrenaline was gradually leaving his body, leaving a feeling of fatigue and disappointment. The door opened, and Isabella and Camilla entered, accompanied by Mark. "Leo. Are you okay?" Isabella rushed to him, her face expressing concern. "Yes, everything's fine," he tried to smile, but it came out unconvincing. "Sorry for ruining the evening." Camilla approached more slowly, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and concern. "You didn't have to do that, Leo. Steiner is a dangerous person." "What was I supposed to do?" Leonardo shook his head. "Just stand there and let him humiliate you?" "You should have ignored him," Mark interjected, clearly irritated by the situation. "Now this will be all over the press. DiCaprio fought in Monaco casino. Great headlines before the premiere. I couldn't just." "You could," Mark sharply interrupted him. "You could, but you chose not to. Now we have the consequences." Leonardo sighed deeply. His assistant was right, of course. In his position, every step was under constant scrutiny, every action analyzed under a microscope. He should have had better control over his emotions. "I'll contact Jillian," said Mark, mentioning Leonardo's publicist. "We'll need to prepare an official statement." Camilla came closer and sat next to Leonardo. "Is it true what he said?" she asked quietly. "About you, collecting models?" Leonardo looked at her with surprise. "Camilla, seriously? You believed what that drunk idiot said?" She shrugged. "Not that I believed, but, you know, there are rumors. About you only dating young models and..." "And what?" Leonardo stood up, walked around the room. "And what do they know about my life? What does Steiner know? What does any of them know?" "Leo," Isabella said softly, approaching him. "Nobody is accusing you of anything. We're just..." "I know," he stopped, rubbed his tired eyes. "Sorry. It's been a long evening." The casino security organized an exit for them through the back door, a small alley that was rarely used. When they stepped outside, the cool night air of Monaco hit them with its freshness. Leonardo breathed deeply, trying to clear his head. "Those journalists, do they already know?" he asked Mark, who was constantly looking at his phone. "Of course, they know," the assistant replied grimly. The first posts on social media appeared minutes after the incident. We have about an hour before the first official articles go online. Leonardo nodded. He had long resigned himself to the fact that privacy was a luxury he could no longer afford. What does Jillian say? She offers two options. Mark scrolled through the messages on his phone. Either we issue a short statement with apologies for the unfortunate incident, or we wait and see how big the scandal becomes before reacting. And what does she recommend? Mark paused, looking up from the screen. She thinks apologies might make the situation worse. Create the impression that you really did something wrong. Better to wait. Leonardo shook his head. I'm not going to apologize. Steiner behaved like a pig. We'll issue a statement that I regret the incident itself, but nothing more. Camilla, who had been silently listening to their conversation, suddenly spoke up. Wouldn't it be better to just tell the truth? About how this man sent me an indecent note, that he behaved offensively, and that you were simply defending my dignity? Leonardo and Mark exchanged glances. That could have unpredictable consequences, Mark said carefully. Steiner is a billionaire with extensive connections. He could file a defamation lawsuit. But there's the note. Camilla objected. And the surveillance camera footage. The casino will never provide those recordings, Leonardo replied. They value the confidentiality of their clients too much. But that's unfair. Camilla looked genuinely angry. Why can Steiner behave like an animal, while you have to suffer the consequences? Leonardo smiled sadly. Because the world is imperfect, Camilla. And sometimes the best we can do is just move on. The next morning, Leonardo woke up in his apartments in Cap Ferrat with a feeling of heaviness. He reached for his phone and saw dozens of missed calls and messages. News of the incident had spread around the world. He scrolled through several headlines. DiCaprio started a fight in legendary Monaco casino, Oscar-winning actor expelled from Casino de Monte Carlo after conflict with Billionaire, scandal in Monaco, DiCaprio and Steiner clashed over French model. A knock on the door interrupted his gloomy thoughts. Come in, he said, putting aside the phone. Mark entered, holding a tablet and looking tired as if he hadn't slept all night. Good morning. How are you feeling? Like someone who just became the world's main sensation, Leonardo replied dryly. What's happening out there? Mark sat on the edge of the bed. Well, there's good news and bad news. Which do you want first? Let's start with the bad. Leonardo sat up, placing a pillow behind his back. Steiner gave an interview to German Bild. He claims you attacked him without reason, possibly out of jealousy, because he allegedly had a romantic relationship with Camilla last year. What? Leonardo felt anger rising again. That's an absolute lie. Camilla said she barely knows him. I know, Mark nodded. Camilla's publicist has already issued a statement denying any personal relationship with Steiner. But, you know how it is, dirty lies spread faster than truth. Leonardo covered his face with his hands. And what's the good news? Hollywood seems to be on your side. Jennifer Lawrence posted a crown emoji on Instagram, which everyone took as support. Tobey Maguire flew to your house in Los Angeles to be there when you return. And, most importantly, the studio fully supports you. They want to continue the film's promotional campaign as planned. Leonardo nodded slowly. What about the press conference in Paris? Rescheduled for the day after tomorrow. Gives you a day to gather yourself, Mark answered, scrolling through notes on his tablet. And another piece of good news, Casino de Monte Carlo issued a statement that only mentions a brief disturbance of peace between two visitors, without any names. That's good, Leonardo rubbed his temples. I need coffee. Already ordered, Mark stood up. And also, Leo, a letter came from Steiner. Leonardo raised his eyebrows in surprise. A letter? What letter? Mark took an envelope from the inner pocket of his jacket. Delivered by courier half an hour ago. I checked, there's no bomb inside, he tried to joke, but Leonardo didn't smile. The actor took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a few printed lines. DiCaprio. Last night was an unfortunate misunderstanding. I behaved unworthily, for which I offer my apologies. The note to Mademoiselle Rousseau was tactless and unacceptable. However, your physical aggression was also unacceptable. I propose we mutually forget this incident and each continue with our lives. Respectfully, Maximilian Steiner. He's apologizing? Leonardo reread the note, not believing his eyes. This is unexpected. Mark leaned over to read over his shoulder. Interesting. Perhaps his lawyers advised him to minimize the scale of the conflict. Leonardo folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Or someone reminded him that there are recordings from surveillance cameras. What will you reply? Nothing, Leonardo shook his head. I have nothing to say to him. If he really wants to forget this incident, then great, I want that too. A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. A maid brought in a tray with breakfast and fresh press. When she left, Leonardo took a cup of coffee and opened the newspaper. His face was on the front page under a loud headline. You know, he said, putting aside the newspaper, maybe I really should have just ignored him. But there are things I can't leave unaddressed, you understand? Mark nodded. I understand, Leo. But in our time, every step you take is under a microscope. Yes, I know, Leonardo sipped his coffee. But if I start living constantly thinking about what others will say, or how my actions will look in the press, then I'll lose myself. And that's worse than any scandal. Suddenly the phone rang. Leonardo looked at the screen. It was Camilla. Hello, he answered, signaling to Mark that he could leave him alone. Leo? Camilla's voice sounded concerned. Have you seen the news? Hard not to see it, he replied dryly. How are you? It's madness. Journalists are chasing me, asking about my relationship with you, with Steiner. I've even received several disgusting messages from strangers. Leonardo sighed. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Steiner sent me something like an apology. Really? Her voice showed surprise. Me too. A letter was delivered to the hotel this morning. And what did it say? A formal apology for unacceptable behavior and a promise never to bother me again, Camilla replied. But you know what surprises me the most? This man claims we had a romance. It's such an outright lie. Leonardo smiled, feeling some relief from her indignation. I know. He's trying to justify his behavior to the press. Silence fell on the line. Leo. Camilla finally spoke. Thank you. For yesterday. Few men would stand up for a woman like that. I just did what I thought was right, he replied. And that's why you're special, she said softly. Not because of your films or Oscars. But because you still care about what's right. After the call, Leonardo approached the panoramic windows of his apartment. The Mediterranean Sea glistened under the morning sun, yachts moved slowly through Monaco's harbor. Life went on, despite scandals and headlines. His phone rang again, this time Martin Scorsese. Martin, hello. Leo, my boy, the legendary director's voice sounded as energetic as always. What's going on over there? You're fighting billionaires in casinos? Didn't know I was preparing you for a boxer role. Leonardo laughed. It's a long story. I have time, Scorsese replied. And, by the way, I'm on your side. Some people deserve a good telling off if they don't know how to behave. Won't this hurt the film? Hurt it? Scorsese laughed. Leo, you know me better. This will add intrigue. People like actors with character, real people, not press puppets. 2 days later, Leonardo sat in a spacious conference hall of a luxurious Parisian hotel. Dozens of journalists sat before him, cameras aimed at his face, and everyone was waiting for an answer to the inevitable question. Mr. DiCaprio, a young female journalist, raised her hand. Could you comment on the incident at the Monaco casino? What provoked the conflict between you and Maximilian Steiner? The room fell silent. Gillian, his publicist, tensed in the corner of the room. They had discussed this situation, short, evasive answers, no details. But looking at these faces, at the young journalist who might have been fighting for her place in this industry, Leonardo suddenly felt tired of playing by the rules, of half-truths and strategic answers. You know, he began, deciding to deviate from the prepared phrases. I could say it was just a misunderstanding, as they often say in such cases. But the truth is that in our world, where money and status often give people the feeling they can behave however they want, sometimes you need to draw a line. The room grew even quieter. Gillian made a warning gesture, but Leonardo continued. Mr. Steiner behaved unacceptably toward my companion. I asked him to apologize. He refused and made the situation worse with his comments. I reacted emotionally, perhaps more impulsively than I should have. If I disappointed anyone by this, I'm sorry. But I don't regret standing up for my friend. The journalists frantically wrote down his words. Cameras clicked continuously. I won't comment further on this incident, he concluded. We're here to talk about the film, which I believe is one of the best in my career. So if there are questions about working with Martin Scorsese or about my character. After the press conference, Gillian approached him, her face expressing a mixture of irritation and admiration. That's not what we agreed on, she said. I know, Leonardo replied. But it was the right thing to do. The next evening, Leonardo was at the London premiere of the film. The red carpet shone with camera flashes, fans shouted his name from behind barriers, and everything seemed so familiar, another evening in the life of a Hollywood star. And yet something had changed. Maybe in how he answered reporters' questions. Maybe in how he looked at them, without the usual wall between himself and the world. The incident in Monaco had become something of a catalyst, a reminder that even behind all this Hollywood machinery, he was still just a person, with principles, boundaries, and dignity. When he was asked about Monaco for the last time that evening, he just smiled and said, you know, sometimes life reminds us that the most important roles we play are not in front of cameras. 3 weeks later, when the film became a box office hit and the Monaco scandal was almost forgotten, overshadowed by new sensations, Leonardo received a small package with no return address. Inside was an antique deck of baccarat cards in an elegant box with the inscription, Casino de Monte Carlo, and a short note. For a true gentleman. Some things cannot be bought with money. P. Leonardo smiled, recognizing Philippe's handwriting, the casino manager. He turned the box in his hands, thinking about that night, about Steiner, about Camilla, about boundaries and principles. Maybe what happened in Monaco wasn't just a scandal or disgrace. Maybe it was a moment of truth, one of those rare instances when the curtain falls and we show who we really are. For a man who had spent most of his life hiding behind different characters on screen, it was a strange but pleasant feeling, to just be himself, even if the whole world was watching. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.